and that was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. I've been involved with forensic psychiatry, which is my final focus, and I launched my career right off there. And it's a career that I've found an immense amount of joy. I still feel a huge amount of gratitude for the faculty for getting me to where I am in my life right now. And I can see myself doing this till the day I'm ripe old age of in my 80s.
Thanks, Anthony. Paul, please.
Hello, everyone. It's good to see everybody here. My name, I say, was Paul Linek, and I'm in my seventh term, so in my last year. And I have relatively less clinical experience than everybody before me, but I've had experience at a cardiology unit, nephrology, and I'm currently at an acute internal medicine unit. And I very much enjoyed the program so far. And yeah, and just kind of sharing my experience. I have some experience in research as a student researcher as well, which has been really exciting. And yeah, I've really enjoyed my experience at the UC nursing program so far. So yeah, great to be here.
Thanks, Paul. Saren, please.
Hi, my name is Saren. Just like Paul, I'm in term 7, so that's my 4th year of nursing. We'll be graduating in the spring. I did the direct entry from high school program, and most of my experience so far in nursing school has been in med-surg, but I'm really excited to share my experiences with everyone today.
Thanks, Saren. Kim.
Hi, my name is Kim. I'm one of the admissions officer program specialists with the undergraduate program team. I've only actually been with the university for 1 year, so this is a new night for me. So I'm looking forward to hearing all the stories.
Thanks, Kim. And Emma.
Hi, my name is Emma Lockyer. I am a senior program specialist with the undergraduate and graduate programs here in the Faculty of Nursing. I've been with the Faculty of Nursing for a little over 5 years. Working primarily with undergraduate students across the program. So happy to answer questions, and I will be moderating the Q&A during our panel tonight.
Thank you, Emma. And lastly, Hussein.
Hi guys, my name is Hussein. I am a student recruitment ambassador with the recruitment office here at the University of Calgary. So I'm still a student. I'm just doing my internship, my co-op, currently with the university over here. And I'm also here to answer any questions you might have about admissions, but we have Emma with us also, so that's kind of great as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your introductions there. So please, I encourage the participants, the attendees, to put some questions in the Q&A. I do see we have 2. One of them, I think you might have seen, has been the second one. This presentation is being recorded, so it will be available to view later. And then there is a question about mental health practicums. I'm wondering if Paul or Saren would like to answer that. If you had any experience in mental health.
I do not have
Sure,
any experience in. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, we can take turns. So I haven't had a specific clinical placement in mental health, but I know it is one of the options that students can have for their final practicum in term 8, so the last semester of the program. However, in all units, you see mental health and you work with patients who are having mental health concerns. And I've also gotten experience. I work at an addictions facility as a nursing assistant. So if that's something you're interested in too, you can also get a part-time job on the side too to supplement.
Yeah, exactly. We do in our term 5 and 6, which is the 3rd year for a direct entry student. We do have we have 4 groups that do mental health as a placement. So it's not that every student will get it, but there are certain mental health placements that we do have for that. And like the student said, there is your final focus where you can also have a mental health placement if you so desire. Dave, did you want to say anything about that from a term 8 perspective? That what term 8 for everybody is the final term, the preceptor term?
Sure. We're actually very fortunate that we have currently, we actually have a student out with Anton in SAPIC. And we have a good mix of sites that can be used as in that final focus. And as Saren and Paul talked about, it is it is something that we offer. Currently, we're working on the group of students that Paul and Cern are with will do their final focus in January. There's 128 of them. And so far, as of this morning, we have 85 placements already confirmed and students placed, and another 25 or 30 that we have to place that we've gotten since the placement coordinator and I last worked together, which was last Thursday. So mental health is definitely something we can do from pediatric and the mental health unit at Children's all the way through to adolescent, and then adults, and then older adults as well. The long-term, or the older adult gerontological mental health unit, as well as places that we've got students working.
Could I add in my 2 cents as well? I
Yeah.
think one of the great advantages that the faculty offers, as well as the program, the career as a whole, is that there's a lot of flexibility of which fields people want to be involved with. In my case, I was lucky enough in my third year to be placed in for a 5-week mental health rotation on a unit, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And that's when I knew that I already loved all the different aspects of nursing I was involved in, from cardiology to neurology. However, the moment I was involved with psychiatric adult nursing, that's when I realized that this is what I can see myself doing. This is what feels right. And from right then and there, from my second final term to my final focus, I signed up for all the mental health rotations I could get. It became something that launched my career. And to this day, like, even if it's like 5:55 in the morning, I'm bleary-eyed and tired, it feels so good being able to do work in a field of nursing that just like brings me a lot of fulfillment and gratitude for what the work I get to do. So regardless of if folks are interested, folks can try medical nursing, folks can try psychiatric nursing. Some people like to involve themselves in all those different fields when they get into the workforce. Some folks like me like to specialize. So it is really amazing all the different diverse options that nursing has to offer for graduates.
Thanks, Anton. That's wonderful. Until we get some questions, I'm gonna put some people on the spot with some questions that I think would be useful to discuss. Kara, I'm going to start with you because you're largely responsible for everything to do with NCLEX. I think a lot of people might not even know what the NCLEX exam is. Can you explain a little bit about that and sort of how that licensure piece works?
Sure. So after you've completed your undergraduate education, we have some fantastic people at the faculty who will let our regulatory body, which is the which is the Association of, oh my goodness, even I'm forgetting it, the College of Registered Nurses of Alberta, CRNA now, becomes aware that you'll be completing your program. And all students across Canada have to write a licensure exam, no matter whether you choose to work in BC, Ontario, Alberta, Prince Edward Island. Everybody must write a licensure exam. The only province that doesn't is Quebec. Quebec offers their own exam for their students, for their French-speaking students. With the licensure exam, it is an exam that originates from the US, and all students write this exam in order to become a registered nurse. So that's the only way that you could use the designation of RN behind your name and practice as an RN. And I think our faculty does a really great job at preparing students all the way through the curriculum so that they are ready and prepared to write this exam and ready to be a practitioner.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Kara. Michelle, can I call on you to say a little bit more about your role? You have a really unique position, or you've had unique positions and whatnot. Can you say a little bit more about your experience?
My current role or my past role?
Whatever you think is most interesting.
Well, I'm going to talk about my military experience then, because other people can talk about AHS experience. So I joined the military and really had no idea what I was doing. No one in my town had joined the military since World War II. So I had no idea what to expect. Loved my career, would never, ever change anything about it. I went to really crummy places and met really wonderful people. I went to really great places and had really great jobs. So I was lucky. I lived out of the country once. At that point in time, we still had bases in Europe, and I was lucky enough to be posted over there. But I started out doing frontline nursing like most of us do. I was pretty young in my career yet. I had ICU experience. So I worked in ICU, went to bases, and in bases, we take care of just the people on the bases, so the military folks. And you run clinics. In Summerside, we were the air ambulance for the Maritimes. So I did a lot of air vac. I did 120 flights in 3 years, and there were 6 of us doing them. So you can imagine how many flights we did a week. So that was fantastic experience. And with my ICU background, it really lent towards doing air vac nursing. Quite often we did not have doctors on board, so we were the senior medical person on board. Went on to teach the equivalence of LPNs within a classroom environment, and later on went on to teach clinical for everything from our beginning techs all the way up to the top techs and nurses. Arranged their clinical rotations, monitored them, things like that. And then went into leadership. And of course, as you can imagine, the military leadership is pretty intensive, and there's lots of training and lots of courses, and they really teach you how to be a leader. So I was very fortunate. I spent 20 years working in leadership throughout my career at different levels, starting at the very bottom and moving up to the highest we could go as a nurse at that point in time before I retired. And then I went on and I took a non-nursing role as chief of staff to 3 of the wing commanders up in Cold Lake, so 3 of the people that ran bases. But because of all my leadership experience in nursing, they felt I was a good fit for that. So it was a really wonderful career, and not a lot has changed. So for those who are interested in it, you still do basic training, you still do your occupational qualification courses. They still work on bases. They work in large civilian hospitals. So like the Sturgeon in Edmonton, we have a chunk of that hospital. The specialties are air vac, ICU, and OR. We work out of Vancouver General, and not only do they work in Vancouver General, but we run, or the military runs a trauma training center out of there. So for people who are being deployed, medical people, they go there for trauma training. So it's a really wide variety of things you can do. You work for the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and because medical are purple, you flow through all of them. I spent most of my career in the Air Force, but there are, like, I moved back and forth. I did an Army posting as well. So there's lots of opportunities there. And if anyone wants to know more about it, they're welcome to get in touch with me.
That's great, Michelle. Thank you.
We have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Our question is, how far away is the furthest placement? So maybe Dave, if you want to start speaking to maybe out of region placements in term 8, as well as what placements look like in the rest of the program.
Sure. We have this current term. I have students out in where I've got some in Manitoba. I've got one in Manitoba. I've got some in a bunch in BC. We've had people as far away as sick kids in Toronto. Last year, we do a lot of work with the folks in high level, Alberta Health Services in high level, North Zone, where they will actually provide accommodations for students that go up there in their final focus. Currently, we have 2 students that are planning to go up there for January. And it's great because a lot of these sites, especially a lot of the rural sites that are we're really starting to do a lot more work with, not only will have the ability to sometimes, depending on the location, provide accommodations for the students, but it's a great place to learn and a great opportunity to see what's happening, whether it be in places like Wainwright or Cold Lake with Portage College. We're doing some work with them. So we're actually getting out there, and we can ask for any place that is where you'd like to go in Canada. The drawback is that it takes a long time to get a placement confirmed and lots of hours go in. So once we start working on it, we do have time limits. So if we can get it done, we can do it, but it does take a lot of time. So we are very cognizant of making sure that we don't take 130 people that don't want to be in Alberta. So.
And maybe I'll just add to that, but so for all of the other terms, when it's not your preceptor term, your placement is within a 50-kilometer radius. So I don't know what those boundaries end up being, but yeah, we're not sending you all over Canada for other clinical placements. I wonder if I can
sorry, Catherine, I just add that would be realistically, it's like Calgary, you can get any placement in Calgary, Airdrie, Cochrane, Okotoks are quite common, but they typically try and get students to volunteer to take the placements in places like Okotoks and Airdrie, for whom it might be a little bit more convenient.
Right.
But you can generally expect to be anywhere in Calgary.
Paul and Saren, I wonder if you could say a little bit more about your clinical experiences. You're coming up to your last term now. What are you hoping to get, or maybe you already know, and kind of what you're thinking for jobs in the future. Saren, why don't we start with you?
Okay, sure. So far in my clinical experiences in term 3, for my community placement, I got to work with a group of Yazidi refugees, and we really did a lot of health teaching with them and helped them kind of connect to resources in the community. In term 4, I was in long-term care, and in term 5, 6, and now term 7, I've been in various different med-surg units, just in the hospitals in Calgary. In term 8, I'm really hoping to do a perinatal focus, specifically labor and delivery. And then when I graduate, there's so many different options. I'm hoping to do some labor and delivery, some travel nursing. And then I also hope to go back to school and get a master's eventually. And I really like working with vulnerable populations too, specifically people struggling with addiction. So I'm really interested in drug policy as well.
That's great, Saren. Thank you. Paul, what about you?
Yeah, I've had currently Saren and I are in the same group. Actually, we're on the same unit. And I find what's really like kind of broadened our experiences. We have multiple in-services and educational opportunities from registered nurses who work in the ICU. We've had one from respiratory therapists. And we've also been able to like follow our patients to like where they're getting their tests done. I've seen like wound care done from other nurses, and just lots of different like experiences, and being exposed to lots of different things is like what I've really noticed has really been beneficial to me throughout my clinical experiences. And just heading into term 8, I think I asked for term 8 to be in an acute medical surgical unit, and eventually maybe heading into critical care, maybe the emergency room. I currently volunteer at the Foothills Emergency Center there, and I really do like the environment. So maybe more leaning towards like emergency later on. But yeah, that's more, but again, there's so many opportunities. I can say that now, and then next year I'll be in a completely different boat. But for now, that's kind of where what I'm thinking. So yeah, very exciting.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate that.
We've got some questions in the chat. How many students in classes in the first year, and how many are in the graduating class? I can start speaking to that, I guess. So as Catherine kind of alluded to, we have 3 different program routes. We have our direct entry, which are students admitted from high school. We have our transfer route, and then we have our degree holder route as well. And we admit a set number of students to each of those programs each year. So if you're coming in as a direct entry student from high school, we're admitting about 120 students per year to that route in September every year. And those classes, your first year classes, are all over campus because you're taking your required courses outside of the faculty and your option courses. So those can be very large lectures. You may have lectures of like 300 students. Once you get into nursing, your theory classes, your big lectures will be about 120 students, but your lab groups will be like 8 students. So you'll have very hands-on and very one-on-one with your instructors. Our graduating classes between the 3 programs are close to 300 per year, I believe. I'd have to double check my numbers on that though. Not sure if anyone else has anything to add. If not, we can move on to the next question. What makes the U of C nursing program different from others?
Why don't I start with that and then others can add. So unlike the United States where they have, Ivy League universities and whatnot, we of course don't have that in Canada, but what we do have is a group of universities called the U15 group. And that is, as the name implies, 15 universities that are considered research intensive universities. So U Calgary is one of those universities, and U of A is another one, for example, in Alberta. So because we have a research intensive focus in our university as an entirely, that trickles down into our curriculum, much more so than I think you would see at a non-research intensive university. So it's not that we are making students do research. That's not, I never want to scare anybody away with that. But what we really do try to instill is an understanding of how to understand research, how to evaluate it to a certain extent, and then how to eventually how to use it in your practice. So that would be something that makes us a unique university in Calgary. Does anybody else on the panel have anything to add based on your experiences?
Yeah, if I can offer some secondhand perspective, I've been very close friends with a lot of my peers who were involved in either achieving or who decide to elect to go for higher education after you're done with undergraduate. So there are some folks like me who it's like, once I graduate from a program, it's like, I want to get straight into workforce. I just want to work. But I have a lot of my friends who's like, I want to go to the master's. I want to go for a nurse practitioner program. And I found that, yeah, the advantage of having an institution that is very heavily oriented towards also the research element of things is that there's a lot of opportunities to pursue higher education. And all my friends who have elected to go that route have absolutely loved it. And they are, we graduated from an undergrad program 6 years ago, so they're coming to tail end of their masters, and they're very excited for the level of career advancement that awaits them.
Thanks, Anton. Okay, we can probably move to the next question.
Next question. How many students are accepted into the transfer program? We typically admit 26 students in the fall and 26 students in the winter. Next one is, what type of postgraduate / career opportunities can I pursue post-nursing? That's a big question.
How about Kara or Dave start us off on that one?
I think the beauty of nursing is that you can really do anything that you want to do. And nursing is a profession that if you want to dabble in med surg, for example, because you're not quite too sure where you want to go, but you know that you like adults more than you like kids. And you know that you really liked cardiology, but you maybe didn't like surgery. You have those avenues to try it. And then you can also change your mind and go, maybe I actually really do like labor and delivery. I never really got a chance to try it as much as I wanted to, and I think I should have taken that route. You can change your mind postgraduate, post-program. We really try to prepare students to be a generalist as a practitioner when you start. And I have many, many colleagues that have worked in various areas: NICU, PICU, Emerge, back to med surg, back to labor and delivery, all throughout their entire careers. Just because you are a nurse in one specialty area or a med surg nurse or a community nurse doesn't mean that you can't try other areas, which makes nursing such a fantastic career.
Thanks, Kara. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay. Well, for me, I came to nursing a little bit later in my life. I had another career that lasted 20 years, and then I decided it was time for a change. So I came to nursing, and throughout the program, I didn't find an area I didn't like. So as a new undergrad, I applied to be an undergrad employee, and I got sent over to the neonatal intensive care unit at PLC. And that's where I lived for 10 years before I retired from that. For the longest time, I was the only gentleman that worked in the NICU in Calgary. When I left, there was about a dozen different guys that were working there, which was nice to see. From that, I moved over, did a little bit of work in pediatrics, started teaching at the university. I also started teaching in community in perinatal education. So all the childbirth classes, that would be me. I focused mainly on new fathers and people that were about to be fathers, or people who had a kid that was 3 months to a year old. So it was a good experience. Currently, I'm now spending a lot of time in teaching. And in that, I've been able to, like I said earlier, move through all the different terms, so I could see the curriculum from the term 3 all the way through to term 8 and teach groups in there. But I think one of the things I found a lot of joy with was working in simulation. In fact, that was my master's, was looking at interprofessional education using simulation to help students get through the program. But I think that, as everybody said, the choices for working are unlimited. You can go anywhere. Just before COVID hit, there was an email going around looking for nurses to work on Survivor. So you had 6 months or 3 months in the Pacific Islands to be the nurse on Survivor. So, all of these things happen. You can kind of find anything that you're interested in, you can end up with.
Dave, since you have the floor, can you talk a little bit about your experience at being a male in nursing, a largely female profession, and sort of what you, and Anton as well, either, I don't know if there's any male or people that identify as male as participants, but just what your experience is in that kind of a role.
Sure. Anton, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So funny thing, when I was transferring into the program in 2014, I definitely had a little bit of trepidation, being like, okay, it's such a female dominant career. Like, will there be any sort of, will it feel strange for me to be surrounded by females in a female dominant profession? And that was never something that ever crossed my mind again. It was such a welcoming profession. There's such a diverse amount of people from different backgrounds, people who are like with different elements of their identity. And one of the big privileges too is that there gets to be an ego boost when co-staff go, can you help me transfer this patient? Can you help me up this? In my case, I really loved my hospital rotations. I really loved being able to explore the gentle, being gentle, being very supportive and in that capacity. But during my final focus, I decided I want to try to work with inmates. So I made an application to go into maximum security environment. They posted me into my current site. And so I went from doing hospital nursing into having to go through 5 steel doors checked in by security in order to get access to my unit. So it's been an absolute joy in that regard. And kind of circling around back to the question about what kind of different settings can I expect to work in once I graduate. Some folks decide they want to see different parts of the world and go for travel nursing, and next thing you know, they're in northern Canada, they're in Afghanistan, they are helping out with Doctors Without Borders. Other folks decide that they want to stay rooted, they want to have more of a 9-to-5 style job, a little bit more stability in their lives, so they decide to go for more community style setting or more clinic setting. Other folks find they really love the hospital life, it's great for night owls. It's great for day people. I've been going to bed at 5 a.m. each day, and I haven't had a day off in a week and a half. And I found hey, this is something that works really congruently with my life that I could never have done if it was a 9-to-5 job. But kind of going back to the original question, as a man nurse, it is definitely something that I really take a lot of pride in being able to identify as.
Thanks, Anton. Dave, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's, I spent my previous job 20 years in a very male-dominated profession, where you'd have the occasional female-identifying individual come in and work with us. And so to be on the other end of the spectrum, where I now am one of the 6% or 8% of male identifying nurses in Canada, I think it's a good thing, because it just proves that no matter what you do, you can do it. And it's really interesting to be able to see people that you don't expect to be able to handle these little neonates. Like if the patient fits in the palm of my hand, which is kind of right there, it's a big hand. My patients are small. That's where I'm comfortable. Whereas a lot of people don't want to have anything to do with those fragile little newbies. And that's okay, because I don't want to deal with some of the things that they have to deal with. So there's always, this kind of works with the ability to be flexible and work everywhere. And I think a lot of units will say that they actually like when there's a gentleman on the unit, just because the atmosphere seems to change when there's a mixed gendered unit as far as care providers. Paul, what have you seen as a term 7 student?
I very much enjoy my time. I find that I bring kind of a unique perspective to, like you were saying, like just like the general care environment, which I enjoy. And yeah, it's been great. I've enjoyed it, and it's definitely not been much of a barrier. I do feel very welcomed by my peers and my instructors, so that also helps as well. So no, I've really enjoyed it. I wouldn't change a thing about it. Yeah, it's great.
Thanks, Paul. Travel nursing has been brought up a few times, and Emma, I know you know a thing or two about that. Do you want to chime in here?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you've heard people mention travel nursing and working abroad a few times. So I support nursing licensure within the faculty. So for both our graduating students, Kara spoke a little bit earlier, our graduating students registering with CRNA, I support that, but I also support alumni who are seeking licensure abroad. So one of the really cool things about nursing is that you can go work as a nurse almost anywhere. So we have alumni working all over Canada. You can do travel nursing within Alberta even, and go up to like remote northern sites through that. But you can also do travel nursing in the States or other parts of the world. And so we have tons of alumni right now. We're seeing a lot of them actually going down to the States, where you can go work with a travel nursing agency, which will kind of send you around for short-term contracts. I worked with a student a couple of years ago, or a graduate a couple of years ago, who was going to do travel nursing specifically in Hawaii. She was headed to Hawaii for a year and was going to be bounced around to different hospitals as needed. We also have a lot of alumni who go work in Australia with the working holiday visas. So we see a lot of that. I've supported students going to New Zealand, to the UK, all over the world. So that's something that's really cool about nursing, is that those opportunities exist. You can go travel the world and work, and Canadian nursing degrees are pretty well recognized. Our scope of practice here is pretty significant, and our degrees are generally in nursing and in most other subjects are generally well recognized around the world. So, yeah, and I guess with that, we can move on to our next question.
Can I add something?
Oh,
Can I add
yeah,
something?
go
to
ahead,
that,
Kara.
Emma?
Yeah.
Only because it relates back to NCLEX. So a lot of times students will ask whether, when they've written NCLEX, does it transfer over to working in the US if they choose to do that, or anywhere in the world? And the answer to that is yes. You just have to be licensed in the state that you're going to. So there is a bit of a process that our alumni have to do in order to be a practitioner down in the US. But it's once you write the NCLEX here in Canada, most of the states recognize this. Most of the US states recognize that a pass here is a pass there. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and a lot of the states have reciprocal agreements with each other, just the same way that a lot of the Canadian provinces do. So once you get licensed in one US state, you can typically work in others. Similarly, most of the Canadian provinces have reciprocal agreements. So for example, if you get licensed in Alberta and then you decide to move to British Columbia, you can basically just transfer your nursing license to BC. So our next question, I'm thinking of becoming a nurse practitioner in the future. What would the process be like? I guess I can start by just mentioning that the University of Calgary's nurse practitioner program is on hold, so we don't have a nurse practitioner program right now.
I can speak to the process maybe a bit globally though. So a nurse practitioner, that's a graduate degree. Typically, most universities, you do a master's degree first, and then you would do your nurse practitioners. So in most universities, it's considered a postgraduate certification or degree. And so, like Emma said, our NP program is currently on hold. U of A has an NP program. Several universities throughout Canada do. They're very expensive to run, which is why we have we put ours on hold for now. But essentially, you just think of it like a graduate degree, and then different universities specialize in different types of nurse practitioner programs. Like I can't even remember what they all are. I think U of T is pediatrics, and then others are family health oriented, that kind of thing. So you would just look and see where your fit was, and then apply there. They're very competitive. They're very hard to get into. And typically you have a small class of 8 or maybe a slightly more than that per year. But that's generally the process.
One of the things that we're doing starting in January is offering a Doctor of Nursing program. So not just the PhD that the research side would follow, but a practice-oriented Doctor of Nursing degree. So you still have a doctoral degree. It's just a DN rather than a PhD.
Yeah. I can speak to the DN as well. I'm actually the lead advisor for that. So the DN would be for folks who already have a master's degree, who are in like senior leadership roles. So if you want to get into management one day, that might be an option for you down the road. Our next question, can a nursing undergrad be a stepping stone for pursuing medicine or dentistry? So the short answer is yes, but also no. We don't encourage it. So nursing and medicine work side by side, but they're very different professions. And the other thing is that a lot of those programs, medical, dental, veterinary, etc., have prerequisite courses that they require, often science courses, or they may require you to have a specific number of graded courses within a term. And our students have 6 units, so kind of the equivalent to 2 courses that are pass-fail practicum each term, with the final term being entirely pass-fail. And so all of those things can make it more challenging to get admission to a program like that from nursing. Our program is very specifically structured to meet the requirements of a professional nursing program. We have to meet a number of regulations under the College of Registered Nurses of Alberta. And so I work with students who run into this all the time, who are trying to get into another professional degree. And it's just extremely challenging. If your goal is to go into medicine or your goal is to go into dentistry, we really encourage you to consider looking at maybe a science program or a kinesiology program or health sciences, something like that. Just because you're going to have a little bit more flexibility to get those courses that you need and get those number of courses that you need in a term. Our next question, does the nursing license easily transfer to Ontario? Ontario is a little bit more paperwork, but I've never seen it be a problem for students. We have lots of alumni working in Ontario. Our next question, is it possible to work part-time while in school? I am hoping to attend via the transfer route. Maybe have our students start that one off. Paul and Sarin, have either of you worked part-time? I know Paul mentioned volunteering.
Sure, I can start. So I currently have a casual job, which I've been doing for a year now. Although I do know like lots of students that have worked part-time jobs. I think just like with the clinicals required, it probably requires a bit of shuffling around of your schedule. But I definitely have really enjoyed working casual while I've been in school because I can pick up lots of hours in the summer. And then just work once or twice a week during the school year. But I definitely think it's possible.
Yeah, me personally, I volunteer, once a week, and I don't have many demanding responsibilities outside of school because I like to focus a lot on my classes. But I know a lot of my peers who work as healthcare aides to kind of, help them with their living situations or just have an income, and they work casual while they're in school. And it seems that a lot of my peers have been able to balance it. In terms of part-time, I'm not sure, but a lot of them have work casual, maybe like 2 or 3 shifts a week. So yeah.
Just that practice that Saren and Paul are doing, which is working within Alberta Health Services. They have an Alberta Health Service number. When they finish the program, they will be considered an internal applicant. They get to know the units, they get to know managers, they get to know people who get to know them, who when the time does come for them to want employment as a registered nurse, they've already kind of walked through the door. It's much more difficult. Well, maybe not now as we're looking for registered nurses, but can be a bit difficult at times if you are an external applicant versus an internal applicant. So Paul and Saren are doing something that's very, very smart, as long as they can handle the course load with that work. So kudos to both of you for taking that on.
Just add in there kind of what Kara's saying with them working with AHS. A lot of our students do work either for Alberta Health Services or for long-term care facilities or other home care providers. There's another common employer for our students. After the completion of the second year of the program, students have enough clinical hours to work as what's called a UNE, an undergraduate nurse employee with Alberta Health Services, which gets students onto units, gets all kinds of great opportunities, or enough hours to register with the healthcare aid directory and work as a healthcare aide. And they get hired, some by AHS, by the long-term care homes, by home care. I know we have a lot of students who've done home care, and it's really great hands-on experience. And kind of as Cern was saying, those jobs tend to be quite flexible and allow you to pick up more hours, less hours, things like that. So they're really good opportunities. I guess we can pop onto our next question. What would your first year / term of undergrad look like?
Maybe the students can take that one.
Sure. So I think it's different depending on if you go the direct entry route versus the transfer route or the degree holder route, but I can speak for the direct entry route since that's what I did. So in your first year, you're a little bit, I don't want to say isolated from the faculty, but you're not in any like nursing specifically run courses. You do your anatomy and physiology, your academic writing. There's a bunch of required courses, and then there's a few courses that you can have option courses. So for example, I did a neuroscience course and a Spanish course just for fun. But your first year is really where you can kind of use your options to like just see different areas before you kind of go into your focus with nursing. But the faculty also does a good job. We have a year one nursing council that kind of helps bring the first years together since they're not all together all of the time. So it kind of helps with that transition into the faculty. And I don't know if you want to add to that a bit, Paul.
No, I pretty much double everything you said there. I'm also direct entry. So yeah, first year is more of the traditional university experience where you get to have many options and kind of be more in the classroom and not have as much clinical experience, but it kind of builds that foundation for learning and engaging with your peers and just more of that foundation that you need to kind of go on into the more specific clinical experiences that you'll have. So that's the first year for direct entry experience.
If I can add my 2 cents as a transfer student, one of the things that on my time frame was I'm the youngest son in my family, and I really want to hurry and launch myself into a fulfilling career. And with the transfer route going straight into basically a second year of nursing, it was like 0 to 100 in terms of learning all these wonderful clinical skills, going to simulations, going to labs, going to lectures. I think one of the really cool things about the profession and the program that UC offers is that everything you're learning in class has relevance to your future practice. So it's a really great thing instead of having to sit in like a different field and learn all this theory and wonder, when am I ever going to use this, whatnot. You learn a lot of practical hands-on skills. You learn the principles, the research, why we do things the way we do it, how to critically reflect. And it's really amazing being able to like emerge into the workforce after your final focus. It'd be like, wow, like the instructors, the things I learned, like even the textbooks we had to pay a lot of money for, like any university course, it was worth it. It led to us becoming this professional. It led to us being able to work in this career. So I think that's one of the very rewarding things, that once you get into the hands-on aspects of the program, there is a lot of learning. It is challenging, but however, it is a challenge that is definitely worth it in terms of getting yourself set up for a lot of life success.
Paul and Saren, when you were talking, it made me think of a question for you both. Excuse me. Is there anything that you know now that you wish you knew before you started the program, or you wish you knew in your early terms in the program?
I don't know if there's anything like I specifically wish I knew, but like when I look back and reflect on like all the personal growth I have had throughout nursing, it's been massive. And when I started nursing, I had such like a narrow perspective of what it was. And throughout the program, like I've just been able to kind of like have a much more open mind and kind of learn about all the different things that influence a person's health. And yeah, I just like the growth that you experience throughout nursing is just amazing. And I guess wish I had known that before I started.
Yeah, that's a very good question. The one thing that I tell students who are coming in or who are thinking about applying is really to get like involved in the extracurriculars in university. There is like a plethora of opportunity for like almost anything that you're interested in, and getting involved in those sooner rather than later like really gets you involved in communities, just giving back or anything else. Like for example, the undergraduate nursing society, I just got a part of it now in my last year, and I hope that I wish that I would have gotten involved earlier. And even just like clubs and social events, and just like committing your time to other things outside of just like your classes and then clinical and then classes and clinical, because it is like a university is more than just like classes you take. You're building yourself as a person, and your personality and your values. So like kind of really going outside of just the academic is what I would say.
Thank you very much. I'm aware of our time. We're almost at 8 o'clock, and I don't see any more questions, excuse me, in the Q&A. So yes, this is our last slide. That is the email, nursing@ucalgary.ca, to use if you would like to book a consultation with one of our student advisors. Sorry, I have such a tickle in my throat. And if you have any general questions or specific questions there, that's the email to use to get those answered. So I want to thank everybody for joining us, all the participants, but also our panelists. Lots of these folks come year over year to this session and help out, and we're so appreciative. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a good rest of your night. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good night.